What's good, guys? Today I want to tell a story. It's a very personal story of mine. How growing up in America, going through life, and pretty much becoming an adult, right? I all started. My time was in Chicago. It was known as Chicago. The middle school, then high school. In that time, it was typical stuff. Wonderful. I see my friends all the time. I try to I try to get my homework done as much as possible. Pretty much do what the teacher says, and then graduated. After that, I went to a four-year college on the edge of was Illinois, and I went to Knox, and it was a decent time. Don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of stuff that I was not proud of. Looking back now, I wanted adventure. I would go out there and do what I wanted, pretty much. And looking back, and I realized, man, I didn't have enough guidance. More so the guidance as to how to retain those friendships, because I felt that what I experienced from middle to high school and college, I thought that was going to be forever. In that, most of my friends are going to be around pretty much. And I really believed that, because that was something I didn't have to think about, because I was so used to it. Why would I think this? Because it's so abundant, right? Because it was so effortless, it was so easy. I see my friends from time to time. I see them in the library. I see them down the hall. I see them I see them in the dormitory. It was good times. And as we're making small talks and making serious conversations, it was effortless. It truly was effortless, and it was awesome. And I thought it was going to be like that for the rest of my adult years. After I graduated, is when I entered into the workforce. Most of my friends, they need to do what they need to do, so they moved across, out of state, some out of country, and just long distance. It hit me really hard, because I didn't understand it, and that, hey, why all of a sudden, like, everyone's leaving, even though radically it makes sense, because it told me this. They, meaning, like, I would say what I thought society has told me, right? That, hey, like, everyone's gonna go on their own way. Okay, everyone's gonna go on their own way, right? But it didn't really hit me until I didn't really feel the weight of it until after I graduated, my college days. And I didn't think too much of it. And I worked, get myself going, but eventually I realized, I felt it, I really did, and I couldn't wrap my head around, other than there was a feeling of sadness, and a feeling, sadness, isolation, and just not having anybody to talk to. And this sort of thing just really hits me in a way where I never felt it before, and I had to deal with it. I had to navigate it. Did I ask for help? No, I didn't. I did not. But it was something, because I knew it was something that I needed to figure out, and I wanted to figure it out my way. And I had a lot of ego at the time, because I felt like, I should be the one who can figure this out, because otherwise, how else can other people depend on me, right? And so I kept hitting a wall over and over, again. But eventually, it wasn't until when I was around 30. So that would be 8 years afterwards, when I started to realize, when I started to become a lot more self-aware into the fact that, hey, relationships, especially brotherhood, require effort, and it did, and I didn't understand it like that, because I feel, well, why, what do you mean effort? Like, people should like you the way you are, right? Yes and no. everyone has a liberty and a right to have you around, yes, but here's the thing though, if you want them to choose you, then you have to put in the effort. And that was something that I totally lacked in the, you know, in my 20s. I lacked the effort, and that was something that it didn't occur to me until I reached 30. And man, like, just looking at back now, like, if only someone had told me this, if someone has told me this, that I needed to put in effort to make time for my friends, that my whole life would have been a lot more different, you know. And despite not having a time machine, I feel great regardless, because I think at least I know it. At least I know it, despite being 10 years later. And now making new friends. Just is life goes on, making friends. I reconnect with old friends sometimes, and a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything as in terms of results. Some were positive, some were negative. And I had to learn to let relationships go, because I understand that it's a matter of no hard feelings. Because that's something that I really took the time to master. That's an additional step for me. And just no hard feelings, because everyone's going to choose what they're going to choose. And I personally have no say to that. I can't. But when they choose you, it's a lot more powerful. And that's something that I started to humbly accept in my times now, in that whenever people are choosing their time, choosing to make time for me, I felt there's a lot more. I feel that there's a lot more weight to it now, because I took it for granted such a long time ago. And just looking back now, I realize like, hey, if I can tell you guys this, to the younger guys, what I have experienced, and that you can get something out of this, that I feel that you will be a lot more prepared for what's ahead of you. And so that's my story. It's a very simple one. I think a lot of us has gone through that at some point, because we're getting into a very isolated age where everyone's on the go all the time. Because we're outsourcing a bunch of like our needs in terms of like, companionship to our phone devices, our games, what is in our other devices, like we can outsource that those things where it should come from our friends. That's the story. I would say that's a conversation for another day. But for this one, I want to tell you guys, hey, friendship requires effort. I say, well, if that's the case, then let's put in the effort. Later, guys.